As you may or may not know, the Pinstripe Bowl was held over the Christmas break. Clemson was a participant. They did not win. With that in mind, Philip from Spartanburg, South Carolina, home of Tyler, hit us up and said, I'm a Clemson diehard. While I love what Dabo did to bring Clemson to the top of the sport, it feels like the Tigers have tumbled and he's not the right guy to handle this era of college football. Am I crazy for thinking this? No, you are not. You're not crazy for thinking this because, Philip, you know what the standard at Clemson is. The standard at Clemson is the standard at Clemson because Dabo Swinney made it the standard. Had Dabo never existed and we just copied and pasted what Clemson had been, which was a decent, pretty good program for the past 15 years, like if we just stretched what they had been pre-Dabo over the past 15 years, it'd be a little bit different. But you've seen what Clemson can be because Dabo Swinney showed you. And now you won't accept anything less. And they've become less than what they were. College football's changed all around Dabo Swinney. Dabo has changed minimally to keep up with the changes in college football. Here's how I thought about this season in the summer. I thought, okay, Clemson's going to have one more good trip around the sun, and then it could be rocky times. But I thought, man, forget about, like, don't even think about 2026. This is me in July. In July, I was thinking, like, don't even think about 2026. Everything about this 2025 team is quintessentially Dabo Swinney. He's got his hand-picked offensive coordinator, multiple years in the system now. His hand-picked, in-house developed quarterback, multiple years in the system with the same coordinator. They've got the #1 returning production roster in the country. They're all Clemson kids. They were all recruited here. They've been developed here. There's minimal portal infusion whatsoever. Favorable schedule. This right here will be the truest test out of any test for any of these teams about how it reflects on the head coach at the program. And they went 7-6. So, yeah, I wouldn't feel good about it at all. I don't feel good about it at all. And when I say about it at all, I mean as it relates to Clemson being a national title contender, which they should be. There's no excuse why they can't be. They got really, really good players there. They've got access to really good talent. They got all the advantage in the world. Some of it they choose not to partake in, which is the call of the head coach there. So for anyone who thinks this was like some blip on the radar screen, no, it's trended this way for several years, firstly, like undeniable data-based, like just black and white trends. Anyone who believes that this is temporary, he'll pull the nose up. Why do you feel that way? I'm really asking. Like, look at how raised my eyebrows are. I'm really asking. I'd love to be sold on this. But why should I expect any better? Why should I expect it to turn around? This past year was going to be the year that if the Dabo model still worked, it would be proven. The OC, multi-year starter at quarterback, #1 returning production. And by the way, Clemson being #1 in returning production means a whole bunch of kids Dabo recruited, a whole bunch of kids Dabo developed, minimal portal infusion, and you go 7-6. So that was with everything kind of being in place. Now, a lot of those guys leave, and there is very little proven production behind them. And Clemson has not killed it in recruiting. They've been good, but you're talking about who you have to compete against now, and you just refuse to really, really dip into the portal at all in any significant way. Why would I expect it to be any different? I should expect it to tail off. Like, you look at 7-6 and your instinct is, oh, we had a down year. Next year will be better. No, on paper, next year should be worse for Clemson. Now, that's the same paper that led several of us to think they could win 9 or 10 games this year, so maybe that paper's not worth a whole lot. You better hope it's not. But I don't see any reason to think it'd get better. The reason I'm always conflicted on this is because there's a lot that Dabo Swinney stands for that I just have immense respect for. So let me do you a favor right quick, and myself a favor. Before the Pinstripe Bowl, they were doing the press conference, and someone asked Dabo Swinney, about like his philosophy and how he goes about things. And I want you to listen to the sound. I'll react to it on the other side.
How important is it to you to pour into these guys just as men, not just as football players as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's my calling in life. I mean, that's my purpose. I mean, I know everybody wants me to win football games, but it's more about how I win. That's what matters to me more than anything. Always has. It's never been anything different, never will be. You know, that's my purpose in life, glorify God, be a great husband and father, and to use this platform of football and education to build great men through this game that we love. That's my calling. That's my purpose in life. That's never changed, never going to change. And, man, we've been purpose-driven for a long, long time. We've won a bunch of games, bunch of championships, more than most. We've won a lot more than we've lost, and we'll continue to win a lot more than we've lost. But, you know, that's what it's all about to me.
Got all the respect in the world for it. For anyone who doesn't know Dabo Swinney, or I don't know him personally, I don't think I've ever talked to Dabo in my life. I'd love to, but I haven't. But I've observed him for a long time. Hey, do me one favor right here. Look down. Are you subscribed to the channel? If you are, thank you. If you're not, please click subscribe. It helps us keep the show free and free of corporate interference. All right, that's it for me. Back to the clip. I know many people who do know him. That's very authentic. That's his worldview. That's his college football worldview. That's his life worldview. There's nothing about that that's inauthentic. There's a little bit about it that you can see through, though. Like he was talking about graduation rates being the most important thing about football. Well, actually, it's not, because you don't get paid $11 million because you graduate kids. The other reason I know that's not the most important thing is because you guys never hang banners in the stadium for graduation rates. You don't have, unless he has a contract stipulation that I don't know about, there aren't very many incentive clauses baked into contracts for graduation rates. But I could be wrong on that. But I know 100% you got him in there for winning a certain amount of games and winning national championships and conference championships. So all due respect, that's not the most important thing. In a perfect world where you have a properly calibrated value system, that is a huge critical part of it. Yes, it is. But even if you dismiss the whole part about that, let me go back to another thing he said there. The biggest problem I have with Dabo is I'm always very conflicted because a lot of his values and principles I fully believe in. In fact, all of them I fully believe in. That's not very different than how I would sound if I was a head coach. But I like to think I would look at it and realize, well, wait a second, I'm not the only guy in this sport with principles and values that are properly aligned. Difference is there are other people out there who, in my opinion, have properly defined and aligned principles and values, but are also able to adapt. Because to me, that's another critical value to have as part of your organization in any walk of life, but especially one as ultra competitive as college football. When you refuse to take advantage of mechanisms of talent acquisition like the portal, because you want to go about it a certain way, to me what that's always screamed is the only kind of kid that works at Clemson is one that we can recruit out of high school. There is no kid that has the proper critical factors in the portal that would work at Clemson. I've never believed that. I've never believed that. I never will believe that. If that's the case, you've got far too rigid a set of critical factors for the modern age of college football. So then the follow-up is, are you willing to change? And maybe Dabo Swinney's not willing to change. I don't expect him to change. It's been my take for 3 years on this. I don't expect him to change. I do not expect you to wake up one morning and log on to on3.com and Pete Nakos has this headline, Dabo Swinney's taken 15 kids out of the portal. I don't ever expect that. Not that I think it's necessary. Happy medium would work. It would suffice. But any sizable improvement with that program at this point would require significant change. And I don't think Dabo Swinney is the kind of guy at this point in his career that's going to significantly change. And so what it could just be is it could be that we're sort of watching the final chapter or chapters being written of the Dabo era at Clemson. If it ended today, he'd go down as one of the best of all time, first ballot Hall of Famer. He is the face of Clemson football. When I was a little kid, Clemson football meant one thing, and when I am my age now, it will mean a totally different thing because that guy existed. I couldn't think any more highly of him. But there's an end to everything. Like there's an end to every run. And if you're not going to get with the program here, I mean, if you're not going to adjust, if you're not going to adapt, you will die as it pertains to being a playoff contender. It's been an age-old concept. Tale as old as time. It's happened a billion times. This would just be a billion and one.